This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Emily Brass. Janet Stewart is off. A Winnipeg woman wants justice after her husband was killed at a resort in Mexico. The couple was on a belated honeymoon. 36-year-old Jesse Ropos died early Friday in the hotel lobby. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, 2 men have been arrested.
Friends comforted Stacy Ropos at Winnipeg's airport following a tragic end to a belated honeymoon in Mexico. She went with her husband, 36-year-old Jesse Ropos, on their first big trip together after getting married 8 years ago.
I learned the hard way. You know, I went to go on this beautiful vacation with my husband, and now I'm coming back with his body.
Their 10-day trip to Puerto Aventuras, a gated community southwest of Cancun, was coming to a close last week when the couple went to a bar at their resort. Stacy says she went back to their room. Jesse told her he was staying for one more drink. In the early morning hours of January 13th, hotel staff woke Stacy. She went to a lobby surrounded by police tape where she was told Jesse was dead.
It's just crazy. It's crazy to think that we were supposed to be safe and that we're unfortunately far from it.
According to a homicide report shared with Stacy, police were called to the hotel for a fight with 2 guests. She says Jesse was involved, was removed from the bar and restrained by 2 resort workers. A death certificate says he died of choking from strangulation. 2 men have been arrested but haven't been formally charged.
He deserves the justice, so for me it's like I just have to keep on going.
The resort hasn't responded to a request for comment. Global Affairs Canada says it's aware a Canadian citizen was killed in Mexico, but shared few other details due to privacy. A spokesperson says support has been provided to the family.
It's a shame that it ended so horribly, but I'm just going to keep on at all those positive, awesome memories that we had.
The couple has 3 children. Jesse's body was transported back to Canada on a separate flight, but Stacy says travel insurance only covered around half of the total $14,000 bill.
I told my kids, like, I'm not leaving Dad. I'm promised I will not leave him here. I will not leave until he is coming home.
She's now planning his funeral and vows to push on with her fight for justice. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Millennium Library will fully reopen on Monday, weeks after a fatal stabbing forced the doors shut. The city says it'll be adding new interim security measures, which include bringing back the controversial metal detector. CBC's Brittany Greenslade joins us live from the newsroom. Brittany, what else can people expect when they arrive on Monday?
Well, Emily, the city says it will be bringing back that airport-style walk-through metal detector for all visitors entering the building, as well as metal detector wands. And visitors can expect to visually see a larger security presence. 2 police officers and an additional 4 security guards are being hired. This is only for what the city says is going to be an interim period while it waits on recommendations of a risk and security audit of the facility. Now, the city says ensuring there are no weapons being brought into the facility is critical to ensure the safety and well-being of staff and visitors. On top of that, teams with the Downtown Community Safety Partnership will do extra patrols around the library, including through the lobby and park, and will use the former gift shop space as a base. The library has been closed for more than a month after 28-year-old Tyree Kaye was stabbed to death on the main floor of the downtown facility. Limited services resumed last month, which allowed people to pick up and return items they reserved online. Today, we asked Winnipeggers how they feel about the new changes.
I think it's a very good idea. Downtown has deteriorated quite a bit, especially for us older folks.
I have mixed feeling about it. Okay. I think the police and all, they should be sparing their efforts towards other criminal situations, not just getting deployed here. That's my personal observation.
I do think it's going to make some people feel more safe, but others more uncomfortable because the library is supposed to be a space open to anyone. So it can make people less likely to come.
For me, it's a little bit too far, but if it's what people wants to use it and it's safer, yeah, it's a good thing.
It seemed a bit galling at first. We'll have to go through airport type security screening to just go and read a book. But it's proved itself necessary, unfortunately.
Now, this isn't the first time enhanced security measures have been tested at the library. A group called Millennium for All held a series of rallies calling the security measures regressive. That was back in 2019 when it was brought in to deal with increased violence and intoxication in the building. At the time, a city spokesperson said security incidents dropped by 43%. But a year after, the metal detector and bag checks were scrapped in response to that public outcry. Today, Joe Curnow, a member with Millennium for All, says this is a step backwards.
What we're seeing today is that the city is backing out on all the progress that they've made over the last 2 years and doubling down on a failed policy that made no one safer.
Now, again, the city says this is just a temporary move to be able to get the library reopened as quickly as possible. As of now, the city has not released a timeline for when it expects the full risk and security audit to be finished. Emily?
Thank you, Brittany. That's CBC's Brittany Greenslade. It's a government program meant to help businesses pay workers more money, but many business owners say getting that help is too much work for too little reward. CBC's Ian Fraze explains.
This restaurant's profits are getting chopped.
I've had to remortgage my house a couple times just to try to keep the business going.
You'd think Tommy's Pizzeria would bite at the chance to get some wages subsidized. But with few earners around the minimum wage, applying for this government subsidy every 2 weeks doesn't make sense.
To spend that amount of time to get $2.50 back wouldn't really be worth it.
Manitoba launched a wage subsidy last October to help businesses lift their salaries to meet the new minimum wage of $13.50. The province budgeted $6 million for the 6-month program, but only $20,000 has been distributed so far. That's less than 1% of the money.
I think it tells you the program didn't work.
The head of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce isn't surprised.
The results that we're going to get, or the dollars that we would potentially get back, it doesn't add up to the amount of time that's being put into it.
The subsidy is up to 50 cents per hour per worker. For a full-time employee, that's around $4 a day. It helps, but it's not a lot of money, especially since businesses say most of their minimum wage staff work part-time.
What they're saying is, we're going to take a pass on this program.
Other businesses feel cheated. A bakery in Brandon spent years raising wages well above the minimum without government help.
Anybody who is doing better than the floor is being punished or being excluded from any funding.
The province says it's planning new messaging and advertising to encourage more employers to apply for the subsidy. Back at his pizza joint, Thomas Schneider says he's eating the rising costs himself.
I feel like I can't raise my prices because it'll scare people away.
He wants the government to come up with programs that support a wider range of businesses. In the meantime, he's planning a social media campaign. Promote any small business, tag his restaurant, and he'll donate a pizza to frontline workers and those in need. It's one of the ideas he's got cooking up to help struggling businesses. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Anomalies discovered at a former residential school site in Kenora really hit home for one Winnipeg woman. CBC's Stephanie Cram has the story.
It's a list of students that were attended in St. Mary's School.
Residential school survivor Vivian Ketchum looks through school records from St. Mary's Indian Residential School in Kenora.
Yeah, this is my mom right here, May Henry, dolls.
For Ketchum, whose home community is Wazooska Nigam Nation, St. Mary's is where many of her family members went. She worries what this discovery will mean for them.
My relatives, friends of my mom could be in there, and my community is hurting.
Ketchum is also a survivor. She went to the Cecilia Jeffrey Residential School, also in Kenora. Nearly 3 years ago, 215 potential unmarked graves were discovered at the Kamloops Residential School. Ketchum visited that site with a group of other survivors.
And I could see the grieving in that, but I also saw the strength of that community. And I didn't expect for my band and my community to be in the same situation.
It's been very disheartening, and it's very It's very difficult, but that's part of uncovering the truth.
The search of the ground started last May and was led by stories of elders from Wet'suwet'en Niggum Nation who went to the school.
And some of those stories are really difficult and even to fathom of what experiences they went through, the abuse, all of those traumas that are associated when they were whatever age they would have been, right?
The community wants to expand the search.
So a couple islands that are adjacent to my community where some of these memories are of the priests and the nuns taking our children. Sometimes they would return and sometimes they wouldn't.
For Ketchum, who's visited the former school grounds, she couldn't help but be struck by the beauty of the lakefront property.
It's a beautiful place, but with ugly memories.
Despite the ugly memories, Ketchum is remembering her mom the best way she knows how, saying she hopes she's dancing with the little ones discovered this week. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A new program is helping clean up downtown Winnipeg while giving people a chance at a better future. It's called Clean Slate, and CBC's Cameron McLean has more.
Our zone that we've been sticking to is from Disraeli Bridge here all the way to Princess, and then from Higgins to William.
Nicholas Candle and Stephen Mason are two of the 6 members of the Clean Slate team. Since July, they've been helping make a part of downtown a better place to live.
We do snow removal, garbage removal, graffiti removal, bit of everything, anything to do with outside there.
The team is based at the Nadinawaymak Homeless Shelter, where it also has a contract to do laundry. Mason was the first team member hired, and he says it's already made a difference in his life.
It came a long way, so I come from the street life, the gang life, at a young age, and I've been staying out of trouble ever since I got onto this team, and I'm enjoying it.
The team has already picked up 53,000 liters of garbage, disposed of 700 used needles, and cleaned up 166 square meters of graffiti.
These guys come in every morning and are hard workers. They get the job done and have excelled at everything that's been thrown their way. I do look forward to the evolution of this project, so this announcement is exciting news for us and everybody involved.
On Wednesday, the province announced it's giving $150,000 to the Downtown Community Safety Partnership to keep the program going.
I would issue a challenge to businesses and others who might be involved in the community to say this is something that we think is a good model, that we can do more of, that we can get individuals involved, back involved in the community in a good way.
After 12 months, the participants will be connected with other long-term employment opportunities. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Soaring food prices can cause shock in the grocery checkout aisle. That got us thinking about the impact when it comes to feeding students in Winnipeg's largest school division. Community reporter Matthew Bryan Shorting shows us how R.B. Russell High School is coping.
Every day, R.B. Russell serves 70 breakfasts for free. Up to 120 students eat lunch for $2.50. The school has a food budget and relies on the Children's Nutrition Grant. Within, they have a full-service cafe and a culinary arts program. Michael Lindberg, one of the instructors, has concerns about the prices of food.
You're having to think about, whether or not you're bringing those expensive cuts into the building. When you're looking at the menu, you're really looking at, well, I don't know if you've seen the price of romaine in the stores, doubled in price over the year, so are we able to offer fresh salads? You're seeing, what my fear is that all the heart healthy, nutritious foods are going up in price, and the more affordable things are the ready to eat, full of preservatives foods that are going to be the choice now because it's affordable. We actually have a food budget where a lot of other places don't. They're running just strictly off the grants they receive, and they're probably getting half as much stuff as they did in the past because of the rising costs of food. Our budget's kind of starting to really dissipate pretty quick at this point. We're seeing the almost food doubling at this point at this stage of the game. So you can just imagine what we're seeing every day. We need to have our food on the table for our students, for them to be, functional students every single day. And we don't, in our area, sometimes our students, the only food they eat is from our school here itself. So to have a nutritious breakfast and a lunch is super important for them to succeed in school.
Lindbergh continues to search around for the lowest prices and hopes for a food budget increase. He notices that children who used to eat at home now rely on the breakfast and food programs. He says the need is far-reaching. Matthew Bryan Shorting, CBC News, Winnipeg.
One of Canada's longest outdoor skating trails has reached its maximum length for the season. CBC's Matt Humphrey has more on the completion of the Nestawaya River Trail.
Fun at the Forks on the ice. One of Canada's longest outdoor skating trails is now at its longest length for the season. Beginning at the Hugo Docks on the Assiniboine River, the trail now stretches through central Winnipeg all the way to Churchill Drive. Many look forward to it all year.
It gets people out. You can meet friends here. You can have a coffee, come for dinner, have a skate. You can come on a date. You can come with your kids. It's kind of fun for everyone.
It's a place to go and be out in the fresh air instead of being, walking in a mall or something like that.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
outside.
And you get to see things in a totally different venue, being on the ice and that, or on the river, and you're looking up at these buildings and you're just seeing something completely different about the city.
The length of the trail varies each year depending on the weather and is tested daily for integrity. This season it runs just over 6 kilometers. The trail was renamed last year to honor the original Cree name used for the Forks.
3 points Nestawaya means when people have come together from different directions, 3 different directions to come and live in this place permanently. The Cree from the north, the Assiniboine or Lakota people from the west, and the Anishinaabe from the south. Part of that is through laughter and through fun and through community, and that's what this river trail is all about.
The trail ends here, Churchill Drive. People can come down, skate around this circle before making their way back. It's one of 3 access points on the trail, and officials say only use those access points as other areas could be unsafe. Other safety tips include going slow under bridges where the ice can be bumpy and uneven, and to be mindful of maintenance crews and their equipment. Tractors, Zambonis, even flooding machines are all in use here on the trail.
Visitors can also bike, skate, and cross-country ski along the trail's path, and the trail is entirely free to use, so get on the ice while it lasts. Matt Humphrey, CBC News, Winnipeg.
That looks like so much fun. Yes. Our CBC weather specialist, Fiona Odlum, joins us now. How's the forecast looking today, Fiona?
Well, if you want to get out and do some skating, tonight's a really good night to do it. We have nice mild temperatures and not a huge wind, so conducive for good skating conditions. Let's take a look at our current conditions here in Winnipeg. We're sitting at -7. Moments ago, we had the icon here showing that we had some freezing drizzle and some snow floating through here. And that's sort of been the pattern throughout today. We've been seeing moments where there's been snow and freezing rain, and then it's fine. And then visibility drops. A couple of moments ago, it was at 5 kilometers. Now it's at 8. So we're really in this fluctuation mode, but this has not changed. This warning came out from Environment Canada earlier today, and it's for freezing drizzle right through just south of Riverton all the way to the U.S. border. Freezing drizzle right through the evening tonight. I'm going to move over this way because over here is where we're going to start seeing a little bit of action. So we can see that we have this light cloud cover, and then as we zoom in, we can see some moments over to that western zone, it's really small right there. And I don't like that little gray bit. That's the little bit of moisture that's going to be coming through and causing a bit of a disruption for us. Our long-range forecast, we have another disruptor moving in. This snow here is going to start transitioning to freezing drizzle again tomorrow, but it's going to be a little bit less dramatic than it was today. Lots of cloud cover. That's going to stay with us all the way. I just keep my arms there till Friday. We're going to see lots of cloud, moments of sunshine bursting through. And then as we look into Saturday, we could finally see maybe a little bit more sunshine. Okay, at midnight, we're going to be sitting at minus 10 degrees and lots of cloud cover. We're going to watch a little change in our wind. East wind going to a northeast wind by 7, 8 a.m. Lots of fog behind me. We're going to see that tomorrow morning. Watch for slippery roads and sidewalks tomorrow because we're going to see that freezing drizzle tonight. It'll be a rollover into tomorrow morning. No whoopsies, slipsies on a Thursday, okay? Minus 9 as we get towards lunchtime. Our 3-day forecast looks like this. We're looking for minus 5 on Friday. That's going to be the warmest day of the week. We're going to see sunshine as we look towards Saturday. And then as we move into Sunday, that's when we start seeing a little bit of snow coming back to us. That'll start in the evening Sunday. We'll see snow Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday right now. We could see almost 5 centimeters of snow in that. And that would be great news for this viewer photo sent to us by Dan. And this is of Windsor Park Cross Country Ski Trail. I'm sure we could use a little top up of some fresh snow there. And Emily, I have to know, are you a cross country ski fan?
I think I tried it once when I was in Girl Guides. How about you?
That was good enough.
Yeah, well, I know that probably ice is not optimal.
No, that's not the best conditions. We need that little bit of snow to, make sure we stay on our skis.
Mm-hmm. Well, I enjoy watching them, so I hope they get some good snow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fiona.
You're welcome.
That's CBC weather specialist Fiona Odlum. The number of people who landed in Winnipeg hospitals last winter with frostbite skyrocketed to the highest levels in recent years. Last winter, Winnipeg saw 90 cases of frostbite. 19 of those led to amputations. The winter before, there were half as many cases. 43 people were diagnosed with frostbite, and 5 resulted in amputations. The next highest number of frostbite-related diagnoses happened in 2017 to 2018, when there were 48 cases and 11 amputations. When temperatures dip as cold as minus 20 or even minus 30, frostbite can happen within minutes, and the cities most vulnerable are usually the most affected. I spoke earlier with Tessa Blakey-Whitecloud, Executive Director of Silo Mission. Hello, Tessa. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So what's your reaction to this high number of frostbite cases from last winter?
Unfortunately, I'm not that surprised. We saw a lot of folks who, thanks to CERB and other things, had access to housing lose their housing as a lot of those pandemic reliefs kind of wound up. And we see so much of this because people experiencing homelessness are literally traveling and living in their shoes. And no matter how cold it is, if you're trying to get around on your feet to access a meal or see your doctor, so much of what people are doing when they're experiencing homelessness is walking around outside. So we knew that last winter was brutal and very sad to see these numbers, but not surprised.
And what's it like for someone like you helping people and someone comes in with frostbite and they need your help? What's that like?
It's really devastating. It's heartbreaking to know that this preventable injury is occurring to people and that people are experiencing so much suffering. Just in between Christmas and New Year's, I was treating somebody for frostbite, doing first aid just because I happened to be the closest person when they asked for help. But I also remember working overnight shifts where people are literally thawing after having been outside for too long and getting really cold. And then in that instance, it was a gentleman actually who had walked from work to shelter. And so, we need to really understand that these are going to keep happening. Winter happens every single year. And so unless we do the work of adequately housing people with the right supports, that means that they don't have to walk as far in the cold, or unless we amp up our ability to offer free transit for people that are low income, we're going to continue to have numbers like this, hopefully with the weather this year less severe.
So what keeps people from getting shelter during these dangerous winter conditions?
Yeah, so folks might choose to live in encampments instead of accessing shelter, or, might not want to use a shelter for a lot of reasons. And so, I often talk with youth when I'm talking about homelessness. I say, I grew up in Transcona. So if I was to experience homelessness tomorrow, I might look to a spot in Transcona where I feel the most comfortable and have the most knowledge because I have a sense of belonging there. And so really, food and shelter are really important, but that sense of belonging is actually the most important psychological need that we have. And sometimes it trumps those physical needs. So people might choose to stay in an encampment because they have a sense of belonging with the community and the family that they built there, or they might choose to stay in a certain neighborhood. And most of the shelters are concentrated downtown or in Osborne Village. And so, where are you going to go if those areas aren't a place that you feel like you belong?
Is there something that the province might be able to do to help make it easier for people to find shelter, those who do want somewhere to go?
I think one of the key things that the province can do is actually solve the next step after shelter, which is housing supply. Because then if folks can move into the adequate and supportive housing that they need out of shelter, we have lots of folks in shelter that are totally ready to be housed, but that housing supply isn't there, so we're bottlenecked. And if we can build that housing supply that looks, supportive, that looks rent here to income, that looks possible for folks to be in a proper setting and be safely housed, then we open up beds and shelter immediately. And so it isn't actually a call for more shelter space, although emergency warming spaces in the winter obviously are needed. But really it's a call to say, how do we recognize that housing is the solution? It's also the prevention when it comes to things like frostbite and resulting amputations.
Well, thanks for taking time to talk with us today, Tessa.
You're very welcome. Thanks for shedding light on this issue because, this suffering is unnecessary.
A helicopter crash in Ukraine has left several people dead. The victims include a child and Ukraine's interior minister. We'll have the latest after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Canada's Minister of National Defence has made a surprise visit to Ukraine. Anita Anand announced more military aid for the country in its fight with Russia. But as CBC's Chris Brown reports, the announcement comes on a dark day for Ukraine. A helicopter crash has left several people dead, including a child and a government minister.
Visiting dignitaries often begin their trips to Ukraine paying their respects to soldiers killed by Russia. Anita Anand also saw some of the Russian tanks destroyed trying to capture the capital. But with this day also came terrible new losses for Ukraine, the latest of so many. A helicopter carrying Ukraine's interior minister and other top officials went down in the morning fog next to a kindergarten in a Kyiv suburb. All 9 on board died, as did a child in the school and other adults on the ground. Some parents thought it was another Russian attack. I saw an object, a glowing red light, going down above the nursery, falling. At first, I thought it was a rocket. In all likelihood, though, this may just have been a terrible accident.
Extremely devastating for the Ukrainian government, as well as Ukrainian people who are feeling the effects of war and now a tragedy such as this.
There is little time here to grieve, though. Russia's war in this country is unrelenting. And so Anand went ahead with her meetings and her main announcement that Canada will send 200 Canadian-made Senator armored personnel carriers worth $90 million to Ukraine.
And I have heard repeatedly that Ukrainian troops appreciate their maneuverability and their adaptability.
Ukraine already has senators that it bought and others Canada donated. We were invited to join a patrol along the tense northern border with Belarus in a senator that's only been in service 2 weeks. Vladislav, the driver, told us it feels solid, has strong metal, and it drives quickly so you can rapidly get away from the battlefield. His commander was equally effusive.
What do you think of your new vehicle? Автомобиль бронёвый.
I think it's amazing, said Alexander. It's very maneuverable, and we can do rapid battlefield evacuations of injured soldiers if we need to. Ukraine's defense minister thanked the Canadian government and people, as did President Vladimir Zelensky in a tweet, even as he noted that the pain Ukrainians are feeling from the helicopter crash and so many other Russian-inflicted tragedies has become unspeakable. Chris Brown, CBC News, Kyiv.
It's been nearly a year since Russia invaded Ukraine, and some Russians who were in Canada when the war started continue to assess their relationship with their home country. CBC's Julia Wong has the story of one such man who recently received refugee status.
Trofa Modley is adjusting to a new life as a refugee in Canada.
I no longer need to worry about going back to Russia. Obviously, I felt like fully safe, right?
Modley is from Russia. He was visiting his sister in Alberta when the war began. Then his parents received a conscription notice for him. So Modley applied to be a refugee.
I don't want to take part in it. I don't want to kill people, innocent people in Ukraine.
Over the years, critics have accused Russia of discriminating against LGBT individuals and targeting political dissidents. Refugee claims from people from Russia are climbing back to pre-pandemic levels. One expert is surprised the numbers are not higher.
Launching a war of aggression like the Russian state has done against Ukraine, I would think that more people would have wanted to leave Russia as a sign of protest.
Lawyer Simon Yu helped Modley. He says media reports supported the claim. They showed conscripted soldiers were sent to Ukraine, and some who participated in apparent atrocities in Bucha were from his region.
It was a relief for me and for both of them too, because now we know that he does not need to go back and face imminent danger, whether it's a criminal prosecution by the government or being sent to fight in Ukraine.
The 19-year-old wants to become a pharmacist, but his sister says a war is not how she hoped her brother could stay in Canada.
The price we pay as a humanity is so much. How many people every day now, losing their lives there?
And for Modley, some realities are setting in.
Well, of course, I miss my family, my mom and dad, who are still there.
Now that he's received refugee status, Modley can never go back to Russia, even if there's a regime change. His sister hopes to sponsor their parents to come to Canada so they can all one day be reunited. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
The Canadian National Institute for the Blind is defending its fundraising costs. For the past 2 years, it's been making an urgent appeal for donations to expand its guide dog program, but the organization spends more than half the money it collects on fundraising. As CBC's Bonnie Allen reports, the nonprofit says it takes money to make money.
Upset. Yeah, good job.
At its national training facility, the CNIB Guide Dogs program expects to graduate 15 guide dogs this year. It wants to increase that to 150. That requires getting more dogs and more money.
Every week we're receiving new applicants, so our backlog, we're not going to be able to get out of our backlog for a few years.
The demand for guide dogs raised and trained in Canada is at crisis levels. CNIB Guide Dogs has launched a nationwide campaign to urgently expand their guide dog program.
This high-profile ad campaign is one example of CNIB's fundraising efforts. It's a big organization with a lot of programs, and financial statements don't break it all down. But overall, in 2021, CNIB received about $29 million in donations. It spent $15 million raising those funds. Add in overhead expenses, and for every dollar raised, about 52 cents went to fundraising costs.
Only 46 cents goes to the cause. The rest is going to fundraising, primarily. So you as a Canadian need to ask, is that reasonable to you?
CNIB says the figures are accurate, but that spreadsheets don't tell the whole story, and that attracting new donors is expensive.
You have to invest money to get money.
Guide dogs cost at least $50,000 to breed, train, and match. Getting one has changed Jody Laycock's life.
That's a huge amount of money. So without the donations, it doesn't happen.
And there's a high demand for assistance dogs.
The fact of the matter is that there are a number of schools across the country, and collectively we would not be able to meet the demand out there.
This guide dog user says finding ways to attract donations is critical.
Good boy.
And so is spending the money wisely. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan.
Still ahead, Fiona Odlum is in with a look at the Manitoba forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. It's January, and that means some of us are still working on our New Year's resolutions. That includes certain companies who've committed to cutting back on endless meetings that have taken over life at the office. CBC's Nisha Patel has more.
We are meeting today to discuss.
These TikTok users are taking on a common workplace frustration.
Ever wonder just how much time you might be spending in these never-ending meetings?
I guess I just get paid to go to meetings.
The purpose of today's meeting is to prepare us for next week's meeting.
Excessive meetings can be exhausting. Now tech giant Shopify says it's canceling more than 76,000 hours of meetings from crammed calendars this month to boost employee productivity. Smaller organizations have been struggling with meeting madness too, especially since the start of the pandemic.
The frequency increased, the complexity of the meetings increased. It seems that we were in meetings constantly.
Which ones will be shorter?
This Toronto nonprofit has scrapped meetings on Monday afternoons and Fridays. Several times a year, they block off entire weeks to allow for deep work.
It's that uninterrupted space to really engage on those things that are the most important.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everybody.
Still, meetings can be valuable for team building and decision making, but they may be more productive with fewer people and a clear focus.
You see your entire calendar filled with meetings.
That's where a meeting designer can help.
People often don't think about timing thoughtfully, and they say, oh yeah, it's going to be an hour. And people just kind of default an hour. But do we really need an hour?
Fiona Blum teaches staff how to make meetings more effective. She's heard employees complain they spend so much time in meetings during the day, they can only finish their actual work at night.
It gets kind of dangerous for the organization in terms of potentially losing people's engagement in their job overall, and also just people feeling burnt out.
Some research suggests employees could skip 1/3 of their meetings, potentially saving big companies up to $100 million a year.
So it may be wise for employers and employees to streamline their meeting schedules and perhaps consider whether some of these could be replaced with just an email. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
A player with the NHL's Philadelphia Flyers is defending his right to sit out a pregame skate last night. It was part of the team's annual Pride Night in support of the city's LGBTQ+ community.
I respect everybody, and I respect everybody's choices. My choice is to stay true to myself and my religion.
Flyers defenseman Ivan Provorov is Russian Orthodox. His teammates held a special warm-up skate before last night's game against the Anaheim Ducks. They wore pride-themed jerseys and rainbow-wrapped sticks. When asked about Provorov's boycott, the Flyers organization tweeted, "The team is a strong advocate for inclusivity and the LGBTQ+ community. The NHL says players are free to decide which of their team's initiatives they support." Well, Fiona Odlum is here with the forecast. Colder weather on the horizon?
Oh, that's
no,
adorable.
still not.
No. But Emily, I want to show you something. Do not be startled by this photo. We have not seen this in a long time. Okay, brace yourself. Sunshine. Look at that blue sky.
Oh my gosh. I know, it's been so long, my eyes forget what it's like.
Right, we have to adjust and refocus. Paul Hammer sent us this amazing picture from Winnipeg Beach. Thank you so much, Paul and Susan, for this great picture. Oh, don't you remember those days of the beautiful rime frost, how we started the year? We're looking right now for -10 in Selkirk, -7 at the Forks, and -9 over in St. Laurent, -6 to our viewers in the Morris area. Be careful, we've got some bad weather for you coming up. -17 for Barons River, -16 in Swan River. You too, get ready, we have snow on the horizon. We'll get to that. -6 in Churchill. What is going on? That is way too warm for you guys right now. All right, we've got this freezing drizzle advisory. This has been with us this afternoon. It will stay with us into the evening tonight as this system will finally move on and transition into light flurries. So we're not really saying goodbye to it. We're going to say hello to some more light snow. This is really going to start picking up on Thursday. So Swan River, you have about 1 centimeter coming towards you, just a light dusting everywhere else, but we will watch for snow in towards the Churchill region. So throughout the rest of Manitoba, we are going to be watching for about 1 centimeter of snow in Winnipeg, Kenora, Brandon, Melita. We're going to watch for a wind that's also going to pick up, so visibility is going to be a bit of a problem. So relatively calm for the next couple of hours, and then once we get into Friday, that loose snow is going to be an issue, and we're going to start seeing some visibility concerns as we move through Friday afternoon. Okay, let's take a look at our temps for tonight. -13 in Red Lake and a warm -9 in Fort Frances. A chance of snow, about a 30% chance of snow. Light flurries through this southern region, lots of cloud and fog as well moving through. As we go to the west side, we will be watching for more snow popping up in Dauphin and Portage-la Prairie. Portage-la Prairie, your visibility has been an issue throughout the day today. That'll continue tonight. We're going to watch that chance of snow this evening in the Churchill region, and all through that northern portion, we're going to be watching for a chance of light scattered flurries throughout the day. As you saw, the evening, as you saw, we're looking for about a centimeter as we move towards, say, Swan River. Okay, so tomorrow we are going to see sun and cloud. There is that peppering of snow that could pop up here and there on the radar through the northern region, but that's mostly going to be isolated towards Winnipeg. We're going to be seeing a system that's going to drift through. It's going to be starting really in the Interlake region, Red River Valley, and then it's going to start pushing east. And so we're going to be watching for that chance of snow coming into that Western Ontario zone. And with these milder temperatures, again, I'm really not ruling out a risk of some freezing drizzle. Emily?
Thanks, Fiona.
You're welcome.
Are you doing dry January? Or maybe you're looking to try something non-alcoholic? Our Jim Agapito introduces us to a man who's tried 242 different kinds of near beers. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Lots of people are looking for alternative beverages as part of Dry January. Aaron Goss is an amateur cicerone, or beer taster. He's tried 242 different kinds of beers that are all non-alcoholic. CBC's Jim Agapito met up with Aaron to try just a few of those alcohol-free brews.
Oh yeah, look at these near beers.
Oh, there's a few here.
All the colors of the rainbow.
The near beer rainbow.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Aaron Goss. I play music. I do a bunch of different things around town. I also love to drink non-alcoholic beer. I've drank 242 kinds and love to share some of my knowledge.
I assume you don't drink?
I don't drink, although, you know, I'm hearing a lot more people saying that they're starting to mix them in, especially with some of the new guidelines and people being more conscious. But yeah, personally, I haven't had a drink in 10 years, and for the first 7 years, non-alcoholic beer wasn't that good. And then sometime just before the pandemic started, I started hearing some things and started getting some things showing up on the shelves and through the mail. And yeah, the game has changed. They've cracked the code. They've figured out how to make these things taste good. Okay, well, I brought you a whole wide array of things going right from a light wheat ale all the way through to a stout. Trying to give some of the variety of taste.
What are we going to crack first then?
Well, let's start here with, this is a wheat ale from Calgary. It's fairly light. And as the style goes, you know, it's not a really hoppy thing. It's kind of more some subtle, well, you'll notice some crackery notes as I pour this in. And some sort of, see, it's very pale. Bit of a very fluffy head.
What should I be looking for in a wheat beer like this?
Well, this one is kind of a lot more subtle. You're going to be looking for some notes of orange zest, kind of some honey, bit of some bready, grainy notes. This one is fairly light-bodied. Well, let's give it a taste here.
All right,
cheers.
Cheers. Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, so it's subtle, but you know, there's a lot of different things going on there. It's nice and smooth. It's very clean. Just that little bit of honey and orange on the aftertaste. Okay, we're going to try a Czech Pilsner from Vancouver. Again, this one is very much on the traditional European-style Pilsner. So, I mean, you hear Pilsner, you think like a macro beer, but this one is much more like a craft European. You'll notice it's a lot more hoppy. There's some grain, there's some very floral notes, but it's also very gentle and very kind of, there's a delicateness to it. Put it in the mouth, on the palate, it is crisp. Very clean, very dry. Very floral, some peppery notes, some herby notes. A really, really big fan of this one.
Yeah. It's really nice, Aaron, to have an afternoon beer and get that same satisfaction you have from drinking a normal beer, but have these near beers and not get drunk and have that satisfaction. What does that mean for you?
Well, it is. I mean, I can have a morning that I remember, you know, and certainly no one ever out there. You know what you don't miss, and what I've never missed is a hangover. We're gonna try a fruit beer.
Okay, fruit beer. Where's the fruit beer from?
This is a sour. This is from Quebec.
Okay.
And Quebec has an unbelievable scene right now. It's hard to get stuff outside of the province, but there are literally over 100 non-alcoholic beers alone produced in the province of Quebec. This is a good one.
Okay. I'm excited. I don't think I've ever had a sour beer, even when I was drinking. So.
Well, we're gonna change that.
Okay. Smelling it. Oh yeah, you can smell a little bit of the fruit on it.
It's dry and yeah, it's got a nice raspberry kick to it.
Okay, well let's do it. Oh yeah, that's
a lot of raspberry, but it's got that sour kick. It's not intensely sour, but it makes it cut through.
Well, thank you for introducing me to my first sour beer.
Okay, well, wonderful. I'm glad to have been able to make that introduction.
History. History.
Sounds good. And we're happy to report that since we shot this story, Manitoba's Farmery has put out a new non-alcoholic beer. The Nipoa Brewery's premier non-alcoholic is now for sale on their website and at select stores. Still ahead, your daily lift, and Fiona Odlum is back with the 7-day forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
Mild weather and snow on the horizon. We're looking for -8 tomorrow with light snow in the morning, warming up to -5 by Friday. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday could be the return of some wintry-like conditions, Emily.
Wow, I kind of forget what it's like.
I know.
So what do Darth Vader, Buzz Lightyear, and Connor McDavid have in common? They're the inspiration behind some cool new nicknames.
15 city plows have been renamed in Edmonton's first Name a Plow contest. Here's your daily lift.
Plowing and Plow Face was probably first in the door, and we got a lot of votes for that. I'm quite fond of Amherst Sleet Snowy. I think that's pretty clever and a good reflection of Edmonton.
The city got 2,100 entries, and here are some of the names that won. Blizzard of Oz, Buzz Ice Clear, Connor McBladed, Control Salt Delete, and Darth Blader. I think that one's my favorite.
I love it. I'm sad that Betty Whiteout didn't make it.
Oh, well, there's always next year. That was the CBC Winnipeg News. We'll be back at 11. Have a great evening.
Have a good night.